Jacey is a New Yorker born and raised who's traveled to 83 countries and all 7 continents. After a career in marketing and advertising, she decided to gift herself a sabbatical for her 40th birthday. Hi, Jacey.
Hi, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, and welcome to 12 Days of Career Breaks. I'm Roshida Dowe of sheetasontheloose.com.
And I'm Stephanie Perry of Vicarious.com. We're talking to 12 Black women who took time off of work to travel. We're talking making big moves. We're talking pushing through fear and living your best life. Make sure that you hit subscribe so that you can subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so that you'll be notified when we post the next video.
All right, Jacey, we're here with a little surprise for you. We're starting things off with something fun from our sponsor, House Party of the Game. Now, House Party of the Game is a Black-owned game, Black female-owned game, trivia game. 90s, I think this is the 90s hip-hop version, or the 90s version, and there's also a 2000 version. So.
Okay.
In Nas's single, If I Rule the World, what was not one of the things he envisioned? Another multiple choice. A, making Coretta Scott King mayor. B, opening every cell in Attica and sending them to Africa. C, having multiple girlfriends coexist in peace. And D, smoking weed in the streets without cops harassing.
C.
Look at you.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, so let's get to why we're actually here. We got questions for you.
Yeah.
So I want to start at the very, very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
In the bio, I said that you gifted yourself a sabbatical.
Yep.
Now, I have never, ever heard anyone say that before. Now, I've heard people say this was like a gift to myself in more of a general way, but I think you actually looked at this as a birthday gift before you went, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when you turn one of those like magical years, those important years, everybody wants to do something big, right? So I didn't really want to have a party. I didn't really, all the typical things that people want to do. What makes me happy is traveling and seeing new cultures. And I had been really thinking about long-term travel for a while. And it's one of those things that people say and they never really do. And I was like, you know what? 40. That's what I'm giving myself. I'm actually going to make this happen.
No, I think there's something magic about that year. I went at 39. Steffi went 41. Mm-hmm. And then we've talked to other people who were like right around there, like 43 or something. There's something about 40 that makes you kind of say like, no, it's time for like me time. It's time for me time.
Absolutely.
So it's just really interesting hearing you say like right on the dot.
Yeah, I think I finally came to terms with like the fact that I'm not interested in sort of the life that you're supposed to want to have, the house and the dog, and well, I have a dog right here, but the house and the like 2.3 kids, and like this is what makes me happy, and I'm going to embrace it and lean in.
Okay, so back up a second.
Yep.
You have a home, you have a dog, you had a job?
I had a job, yes.
So you're back now from your sabbatical. Are you back at the same job you were at before you left, or walk us through that transition?
I am not back at the same job. I'm in a new job. Actually, what happened, so I decided that I was going to take the sabbatical at 38.
Okay.
And so at that point, I got a new job with a higher salary with the intention of putting 2 years in, banking money, and taking off. Like that was the entire goal of that job.
Not mad at all. Very, very impressed with that. Yeah.
It also happened that job sucked. So I had, no reservations about leaving, but that was the goal.
Okay. So you put in 2 years in a place that sucked just to get your money up and get out?
That is correct.
Oh, that's impressive.
I own my apartment here in New York, so I had to save for my mortgage and I had to save for travel money. So.
Okay. All right.
What did you think was going to happen at 40? Like, what did you think what did 40 mean to you at the time that you wanted to tie it into the sabbatical?
Like I said, it was more about like embracing the things that make me happy. And like, I think at that point I was like, I'm not living for anybody else. I'm not living for like my mom's expectations for like, you know, what I'm supposed to do. This is the thing that brings me joy. And I just like, I really wanted to lean into that at 40. Like, this is me. And who says that only 20-year-olds get to take time off and travel for a year?
20-year-olds or 65-year-olds. Yeah.
But those are the examples we typically see, and that's what we're used to seeing. And that's, I think, in our society, who we think is allowed to do it. So it's really good to see you setting an example out here.
Thank you.
Huh. So 38, you get the idea, you want to travel. What was that 2 years of planning like? Was that like were you super focused on that goal, or were you like, you know, I'm saving a little bit of money, having fun, doing whatever, like kind of still living your life in the same way you lived it before?
I definitely was not living my life the same I was living before, but I knew that I could not give up travel for those 2 years. So I actually had a really tight budget so that I could continue to travel those years and save money for this big trip. So it was mostly like cooking at home instead of going out to dinner, having less social events with friends, like outside of the home, that sort of thing. And just really sticking to a diligent budget. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because we end up, one of the questions we get most often is like, how do you afford it? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I hate that, like, just don't buy coffee every day, or I hate that advice, or just take your lunch to work. But the women who've discussed this with us, quite a few of them have said, I cook more at home, you know, like I went out less because going out was costing me a lot of money. And so it really is there really are ways to build in that savings into your daily life without, you know, thinking that you need to like stumble upon a bag of cash in the streets to do something
Absolutely.
like this.
I think you have to be intentional about it, you know, so, you know, I made decisions like, well, I'm not a shopper anyway, but I'm not going to buy clothes. I'm not going to buy, you know, fancy whatever, no new car. This is the thing that's important to me. So this is what I'm going to put my money towards. And I think I actually didn't tell a lot of people I was going to do this. And so as like people realize, oh wait, this is not a normal trip, she's not coming home, I was getting a lot of DMs about like, how do you afford to do this? And there was a little, like, there was a certain level of hostility in it, you know, which was surprising. And I was just like, well, this is the choice that I made. Like, I saved for this. You guys do other things.
That's right. Yeah. We all make choices. You know, your life is largely a result of the choices that you made and the priorities that you set, you know, for yourself. I like that you said you just have to be intentional about it. Sometimes the advice is like, take away everything that you enjoy out of life to save money for XYZ. But it's easier to rearrange your priorities when you have an actual goal that you're working for, that you actually want. You know, it's not like a goal that somebody else has decided is important for you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So before you left, you were in marketing?
Yep. Advertising.
And are you in marketing and advertising now?
I am.
Okay. In between the journey, the 6 months that you were gone, was there ever a point, or almost 7 months?
Almost 8, actually.
Oh, okay.
I started working mid-August. I left in January, went back in mid-August. Okay. Yeah.
Of almost 8 months you were gone, did you ever think about switching gears, not going back? What was your mindset like about work?
It's funny you asked that, because one of the goals I had for my trip was sort of to like figure out what I could transition to, because let me be careful because it's going to be out there in the world. But you know, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I'm getting to a point where there's like, I'm not learning anything new, right? It's the same job. I just change places that I do it. And so I was just like, what else can I do? I'm going to spend this time. I'm going to get to know myself, you know, and figure out what I want to do. That didn't happen. I was out there living my best life, enjoying my world. And then I shifted to, I mean, well, I'm sure we'll get to this, but like, I want to be able to do this again. What's the best way for me to bank money again?
Yeah.
Back in the same job.
Yes.
Okay. That is Stephanie's area of expertise. So we'll definitely touch on that.
Yeah, because for me, it's like once I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to be committed to it. So if I was going to if I was going to switch fields, then that was going to have to be my main focus, and that would have taken some time. And I decided that nope, I'd rather be in the world.
Now, you interviewed for this job that you have now while you were out on the road, or had you come back home before you started looking for the new job?
I started looking for new jobs in July while I was still traveling. This particular job I didn't actually start looking for until I got home, but yeah.
Okay. And did you have, a lot of people are really nervous about going out without any idea of where they're going to come back to, because most American jobs don't offer a sabbatical, so you have to actually quit. Yeah. So how stressful, how worrisome was it knowing that you were out traveling, but that you'd have to come back home and try to find work?
It's funny. It's something that the few people who did know that I was leaving were constantly asking me, like, how could you just quit your job? I was never afraid that I could not find another job. Like, that was something I was confident in. Like, there are jobs out there, I will get one. Whether or not it's going to be like my favorite job or not, I don't know. But, I've been in this field for a while. I have a certain level of expertise in a couple of niches. Like, I just felt like there'll be a job there. So, and I was willing to take the leap.
So people ask us about like reentry plans, like how do you make a reentry plan? But it sounds like yours was like confidence. That was your reentry plan, confidence in your skills and the market. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, let's get down to some details here if you don't mind.
Sure.
Did you know that you were going to leave for 8 months when you left? And can we talk about how money played a role in that? Like, how much did you come back because you ran out of money? How much had you saved? Did you come back with money saved? Let's get all to the meat.
So originally my plan was to be away for a year. Then I did not save enough money for a year. So I downgraded that to 6 months. So my goal was to be away for 6 months. 6 months. I came back to New York at 6 months, and I was home for about 2 weeks, and I was just like, I hate it here. And a friend of mine was in Argentina and was just like, come here. And I was like, okay. And so that extended it.
Okay.
And to answer the latter part of your question, yes, it ended because I ran out of money. I was like, okay, I need an income now. Because I didn't plan on doing this for long term. And so, once I started doing it and realized that I enjoyed it, I was like, okay, I see where I need to change this moving forward. If I want to do this again, these are things that I need to do.
Yeah. So you're thinking now about possible ways to make it more sustainable?
That's correct.
A lot of women go and think that they're just going to be gone for a few months. And then when they come back, they're like, actually, I quit. Again, yes. I'm a serial job quitter myself. So I know what it's like to think, you think, oh, I'll just come back and, step into the same shoes. And you're like, actually, I don't even like these shoes anymore.
It's funny you said that because I had to do like a complete overhaul of sort of my life here to make it enjoyable for me again. Like I said, I owned my apartment. Like I completely redid my apartment. I was like, if I have to live here, it's got to feel like, my sanctuary. Like there were a lot of things that I had to do to my life in New York to make it feel like mine again. Normally when you go away for a short trip, you come home, you're just like, this is my space. I did not feel that at all after my sabbatical. It felt very alien to me. And I had to
Did you rent it out while you were gone, or was it sitting there?
I did not, and that's actually one of the other reasons why I redid everything, because now my apartment is completely rentable, and it will be the next time. So I don't have to save for that as well.
Nice. Okay. Doubling back. Putting mortgage to the side, if you can do that math really quickly. Yeah. How much money had you saved to travel on for that 6 months?
I saved $10,000.
And you spent $10,000 in the 6 months.
I spent on my traveling $8,000.
Okay. Yes.
It's what people really want to know. They want to know, like, how much money do I have to save? And the number varies all widely between women, but like, that'll be really helpful to someone.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I did some research because I knew I was going to go to Southeast Asia, and I had done some research, and it was like, if you want to do it on the shoestring, you need $1,000 a month, and if you want to like ball, like $2,000 a month is great. And so I was like, I'm just going to go in the middle. So I roughly averaged or tried to save 15,000 for each month I was away, and then have a little buffer.
1,500 for each month.
Sorry, 1,500. Yes.
So where did you spend the majority of your time? I saw some Cambodia pics. Is that were you there a lot?
I was in Southeast Asia. I spent about a month in Indonesia, a month in Philippines, a month in Vietnam, and then a couple of weeks in Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Brunei.
Nice. You were all over the place.
Yeah, I really was in that region for a while. I also actually kicked off my trip with a cruise to Antarctica with my mother.
Oh, yay. How was that?
It was incredible. I have never seen scenery like that in my life. Gorgeous.
Okay. I'm doing that next year with my mom, or 2021 with my mom.
No
So
kidding.
yes.
Great. A great experience. I highly recommend it.
How did you
Okay.
convince your mom to go?
There's no convincing. That woman is a traveler.
Oh.
It's funny because she was gracious enough to watch my dog for 7 months while I was away. And when I got back in August, she returned him and she was like, my turn. And she's literally been away like pretty much the entire time since.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Did you, when you told her about the sabbatical, what did you think was going to be her reaction, and what was her reaction?
I don't think she believed it was real for a very long time. Like I had to talk about it for almost 2 years before she was like, oh, this is something that you're going to do. She was very concerned with the, excuse me. She was very concerned with me quitting my job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was just something that, you know, in her generation, you didn't leave a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, I don't know, one day it just clicked in her head, like, okay, this is going to happen, so I'm going to get behind it.
Nice.
So, yeah. And that's basically the way I expected her to respond.
Yeah.
But you said there were some other people that you did not tell about.
I didn't tell the majority of people, honestly.
Okay.
Some very close friends and some random strangers. Sometimes it's easier to talk about it with strangers.
Yeah, definitely. When you finally told people, or when they found out, did people have the the reactions you expected from them, or were people kind of all over the board?
I think it was what I expected. There's always, I think with all my travels, there's always the like, oh, I wish I could do that, you know, response. But then there's like the 87 reasons why they can't.
Yeah.
And then there was excitement, you know, there was general excitement because it was something like, wow, like it felt very big to people, like, wow, you're leaving for that long, you know, so.
Okay.
I felt like that too.
Good. Some of that feedback sometimes, at least for me, when I received it when I was leaving, some of it felt like really genuine, and some of it felt like there's something else going on with you that you should process before you come into my, like sometimes it was like, oh, you're so lucky, but it also kind of felt a little bit like shade. Like there was something else that was unsaid, you know?
Yeah, I got a lot of that while I was traveling. That was a lot of like the DM messages that were like, you know, there was like a lot of hate liking going on.
Yeah. And, you know, people, I think because it's so unconventional, people don't know what to say, and they don't allow themselves to think that it's possible for them. So you must be like an alien to have made this happen for yourself.
Exactly.
Or you stumble onto a bag of cash.
But the more you talk about it, some of those very hate likers will end up on the same journey a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Some of the very people who were like, oh, must be nice. Next conversation you have with them, they're like, tell me exactly, what is it like to stay in a hostel? Or what, you know, what's the visa process for Vietnam? You know, those same people will, once they see it enough, their mind starts to change.
Yeah, a lot of people need to see that it's possible, and they need to see that it's possible with someone they know, you know?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Something will trigger it. For me, I think the thing that really triggered long-term travel for me, I was in New Zealand a few years ago, and a friend of mine and we were driving down the 2 islands, and we were doing it in 2 weeks because that's all the vacation that I had. And every single person we met were like, oh, we're here for 6 months. We're here for a year. We're here for 3. And there were just so many of them. And I was just like, why don't I do long-term travel? Like, that's when it became real to me. Something just needs to trigger it in your head.
I had the exact same experience. I went to Brazil on my 40th birthday, and I was there for 5 days. And everybody was like, why are you only here for 5 days? I'm here for 3 months. I'm here for 6 months. And I was like, you know, these people look like they're in my financial, you know, category. These people don't look like they're on trust funds. How is this possible? Changed everything. I mean, as soon as I saw that regular people, one was a waiter, right? One was a heating and air conditioning repair guy, a couple who were teachers. I was like, oh, boom, I now do this.
Yeah,
exactly.
So let's touch back on your travel history. 83 countries, girl. 83?
Yeah.
So usually we ask people if they've solo traveled before they started this adventure, but at 83 countries, like, we know you solo traveled. So
You know, I have, but I haven't done a ton of it.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was young, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people in this area, like, I did a lot of Caribbean with my mom, and my cousin, my immediate family. And then when I was in college, my college boyfriend did a year abroad, and I went to visit him by myself. And that was when the first time I was like, oh, I can travel alone. Like, this is not scary. Like, that triggered that for me. And then also while college, my mom, for some reason, one day called me and was like, do you want to go to Italy for Thanksgiving? And before that, she had come into some money, and she was like, what should I do? It wasn't like enough to like really change her life, but it was like, and so she was like, do you want to go to Italy? And that sort of opened the non-Caribbean world for me. So those 2 things really opened travel for me. But for a while, I was just doing it with my mom. We would do like 1 big trip a year. After Italy, we went to Egypt, you know, like we were just, you know, doing it that way. And then social media, Nomadness, like all these other like travel groups came. And that's when I really started traveling.
Okay. That's awesome. And you were able to find the time while you were working to like take trips that were meaningful to you?
Yes. Luckily, I like really got hit with the travel bug. Like when at a point in my career where I had some decent time off. I mean, I think there are always people who have more than you, but I had a decent amount of time off. And I can finagle a day off, like a long weekend here. I'm working home on a Friday. I'll take a call on a Monday, and like, I will be out.
That's a special skill. Yeah.
A lot of women have the same dream that you had, but you got out the door. What was the thing that got you out the door?
I think it's 2 parts. I think that I realized that the life that I was living in New York wasn't fulfilling. And I was looking for an opportunity to find something that I thought was more fulfilling. And then the idea of really being out in the world by myself, with essentially a backpack, like my world on my back, was really challenging and exciting to me. And I think that's what really motivated. Like, it was just like a challenge that I wanted to take on and sort of like discover myself.
Okay. And what did you discover?
Well, I discovered I'm a very I shouldn't say anti. That's not what I meant. I'm a very introvert. I'm an introvert, I should say. And I think the biggest like bit of feedback that I got when I told people was just like, really, you're going to be out there by yourself? Like, you're not going to know anyone. You're not going to talk to anyone. I was actually really social on the road, which was surprising. I met a ton of people. You know, I was partying way more than I would do at home. Like, so I wonder it made me wonder how much of like the persona that I was sort of living in New York was really me, or just like the me that I constructed for this environment, and that like maybe there's like different versions of me out in the world, right? So that was really interesting. And I really, I learned how much of who you are is a construct of like your upbringing, your immediate world, and the way that you approach things are about like your surroundings. Because when you're in a different environment where everybody was raised differently than you, and then you're also around other tourists, you realize like there's not like a right and a wrong, or a good and a bad. Like everything is sort of shaped by the way that you were raised. So that was really interesting as well.
The way that you're raised, and it's shaped by where you're raised.
Exactly.
Like in the United States, it's all about work. You never meet someone in the US and they don't ask you, what do you do?
Yeah.
If they already know what you do, they ask you, where did you go to school? Like, what is your financial status and what is your financial contribution to the rest of the world? People, the rest of the world, they don't care. They don't care what you do for a living. You could meet somebody in a coffee shop and have a conversation. He might be the prime minister. He might be, a bus driver. He might, people are so tied to the title or the label, the construct, the outside stuff. And then you go to other places and you find out that the rest of the world, not so much. They're not so into the work culture, the hustle culture, the status symbols, or you're not like, no, that's not true. Status symbols, yes, but not the, like your financial status.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I realized. I've never been like a, hustle, hard work kind of person. I've always been like, I'd like to chill and relax and enjoy every day. But then I saw, when I was out traveling, I got to see that in the United States, we are really, really told that we have to be a financial contributor and not a human, not an individual, not a person.
Absolutely. I really loved the fact that I was meeting and engaging with all these people and nobody asked me what I did for a living. And it's funny, a woman that I spent a good amount of time with in the Philippines, when we came back, she made a post from her office, and she worked at the exact same company that I worked at, just in a different country. And we didn't know until months and months later, because it just didn't come up.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's so funny. But the thing that people do care about and ask you about everywhere in the world is, where's your husband, and
yes.
where are you married, and where are your children?
Yes. Mm-hmm. In the Philippines, where's your companion? I'm like,
yes.
why are you using that word? That's funny. Where's your companion? I've been asked that on 6 continents. I guess you beat me.
All right, Jacey, we've talked about a few different topics that are pretty much helpful to everyone across the globe, but let's get into some Black girl questions.
Okay.
And the things we get asked the most as Black women navigating through the world is, 1, what do you do with your hair? And 2, what about the men? So let's talk dating and let's talk hair. Give us what you got. What did you do with your hair?
So yeah, hair was something that I was very concerned about. And so I did a lot of research. There's not a ton of information out there, unfortunately. And considering how many women I've met on the road, I feel like there probably should be more information out there than there is. But so I figured I was going to keep my hair in braids as long as I could. I looked up places and people who had braids, who lived there, and just like did a lot of research that way. And I found a person in Kuala Lumpur, and I found a person in Ho Chi Minh City. And so I basically sketched 2 cities when I knew I was going to need to get my hair done. I didn't really have a set travel plan, but I just knew like, okay, I'm going to keep my braids in for this amount of time. So I need to hit this city then, and then I need to hit the next city. And so that's the way that I worked that out.
Nice.
Smart. And then what about products?
The other thing was that I had friends who met me, not a ton, but I had some friends who met me on the road. So I had them bring me products that I needed because I was traveling only with a carry-on. So I couldn't take big sizes, everything. So I took as much as I could. And then I had people bring me products along the road.
Okay. I had my friends do that with prescriptions, especially ones I didn't need to take every day. I would say like, hey, you're going to come see me on this date. I need you to go to Walgreens. And that always worked out really well. It didn't happen often. I didn't have, like you, I didn't have a lot of friends join me on the trip, but the ones who did, here are 3 things I want in your suitcase. I had one friend who came to visit me in Mexico City bring me braiding hair. Like, let's not play.
Wait, can you braid your own hair? I'm impressed.
I learned how to on the road. Now it's raggedy. It is not, them parts are not what you want. You would not pay me if I did it to you. But on me in a flash, I'm good.
I feel you. And then honestly, for the entire month I was in the Philippines, I brought like 3 head wraps, wrapped it up the entire time.
Yes.
You weren't too hot? Isn't it really humid there?
You know, at some point, like your body adjusts to the heat. Yes, it's humid, but like I was just hot for 6 months. It was fine.
Okay.
We're all team head wrap. Yeah. Head wrap
definitely.
Wednesday and
I'm team head wrap, team braids, team wig, team I don't want to comb this hair. It's too much.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's one thing people underestimate on the road is that you've got to find a way to keep your hair cute without actually thinking about your hair, because you're not going to want, like, if you've got a week in a country, you're not going to want to spend a day, that full wash day, doing your hair. You're like, what's the quickest thing I can do? So yeah.
Head wrap.
Head wrap. Lots of head wrap pictures. All right. Now, the other question. Did you try dating on the road?
So I honestly, going into it, really didn't think about it at all. And I remember one of my good friends was like, did you pack condoms? And I was like, what? Like, it didn't even occur to me. And then while I was there, like, just like I said, I was more social than I normally would be. And so I was just meeting people out, both locals and other tourists. And so it sort of happened organically. So yes, I did date while I was on the road, but that wasn't ever like really a part of my thought process. It just kind of happened.
But it happened, so yay, because
it happened.
You know, you once again might be an outlier for our research. Okay, so when the dating happened, did it happen more with locals or with foreigners?
Mostly with foreigners.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where were most of these foreigners from? Was there any one place where you ended up attracting a lot of people from that country?
No, definitely wasn't one country. There was actually not even one region. Like, you know, there were people from all over the world.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it was more like, oh, we're vibing. Like, we're hanging out with this group. Let's, you know, do something by ourselves. That sort of thing.
That's
Why,
awesome.
Sheeta, did you find, Sheeta, that you were getting attention from somebody from one particular region?
I feel like we've had this talk and, you know, I wasn't getting any attention. So, like, there was nothing. I
don't believe you. It's because I don't believe you.
I went on one Tinder date because I am not traveled solo most of the time, didn't go out at night, and I'm not a hang out with groups of people person. So I didn't meet people. Mm-hmm. So this is the good advice you need to take from Jacey is like, find people you can bond with. I was like, oh, it's after 6. It's time to sit in my apartment.
No, it's funny to say that because that's like the way that I am normally. Like I said, I'm an introvert. And so I would mix where I would stay. So I would stay at a hostel, and it would be a place where I would be super social. And then the next city, I would either like get an Airbnb or, you know, and I would have my alone time where I could just like refresh myself because I couldn't do it all the time. And I went back and forth there. And so, yeah, when I was social, I met people. Go figure.
Okay, so let's dig in. Can we dig into hostels a little bit? I know Stephanie is a real hostel, what's the word?
Advocate.
She is an advocate for hostels. I'm an introvert like you, Jacey. I don't want to see another human in the morning until I'm ready. I need I don't want there to be any lights, no noise, no movie, no rustling. I've obviously never lived with anyone. My mother's very upset, but I don't like people in
your space. Yeah.
Even you breathing on the other side of the room is too much for me. Now, as an introvert, is that something, maybe your feelings aren't as strong as mine, but were you comfortable staying in hostels?
Comfortable for the most part, I would say yes. Because I knew what I was getting myself into, right? So I mentally prepared myself for those environments. Mm-hmm. That said, I did a lot of research and tried to select a specific kind of hostel. I can't stay in a room with 18 other people. I personally prefer female only dorms. There's certain criteria that I need to make sure that the place had before I would stay there. And once I got that, then I was like, okay, this is my environment. I know it's going to be loud, the bathrooms are going to be a little dirty. I just sort of got my mind around it and got through it. And I think that the benefits of meeting people and not being alone in the social element outweighs all of the other nonsense about hostels. But there was one in the Philippines, I remember in Siargao, with this woman next to me, there were always 2 sets of feet in her bed. That I got over.
I just got that. It took me a minute to get there, but okay. All right.
They're also a means to end. For me, I wouldn't have been able to travel as long and as many places if I was staying in, a fancy hotel every night. I mean, I like luxury just like the next girl, honestly, but, I was willing to make some sacrifices in order to take this trip that I wanted to take.
Exactly.
So you stayed in hostels. Did you stay in other forms of housing, hotels, Airbnbs?
I stayed in hotels. I stayed in apartments. I stayed in hostels. I stayed in tents. Yeah, yes, I did. Some were glamping and some were just tents on the sand. I did it all on this trip.
Okay, so it sounds like you planned out a lot, more than most people do for this trip. No?
No, not really. All I knew going in was I knew where I was going to start in Singapore, and I had that week laid out. I knew where I needed to get my hair done, and I had a 1 week sailing trip in the Philippines, and that's all I knew going in. And I sort of figured out the rest on the road, talking to people, doing a little research, and I made my way.
Is that usual for you? Are you usually the go with the flow kind of person, or are you normally a planner?
I can do both. If you tell me I'm in charge of something, I will plan the shit out of it. I'm sorry, can I curse on this thing?
You can, sure. You can, we like it.
Sure. And and I love that. My mom gives me a task, she gets a spreadsheet, I can project manage a trip. But I also love to just flow. And I think part of the adventure of this was that I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. That's, was part of the excitement.
Nice. Okay.
And that was also part of the just luxury of long-term travel. The fact that I didn't have to, when you're working within PTO, you got to figure that out. Mm-hmm. But
so are you already creating a roadmap for your next sabbatical?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is there a time frame you're willing to share in a public space?
Probably not wise, but yes, I definitely am planning on doing this again. I want to do it for longer this time. A minimum a year. I am trying to see if I can make 2 happen. And what I didn't get to do this time that I'm really looking to do is, which I think both of you do, is find a place out ex-US to settle down and make a base and live in a different culture and community. And then, I can travel from there, but that's what I would like to do.
Is any place in particular particular standing out as a front runner?
So at first, because I spent all the time in Asia, I was like, oh yeah, this is super cheap. Like, you know, I could be in Chiang Mai or I could be in Hanoi. But actually now I'm thinking that I would rather do something, start in Latin or Central America, because I want to do like a Spanish immersion for a few months. Like I've been flirting with like, you know, really learning Spanish for a while. Like I can get bad on my bad broken Spanish, but I would love to like really get that locked in. So
Stephanie and I are big Mexico fans and Southeast Asia fans. So, you know, I think there's a lot to say about both places. I would be back over there right now if it wasn't so expensive and time consuming to come back to the US. Yeah. So I figured for at least a year, I'd stay a little closer to home. So, and then Stephanie loves her small town Mexico house sits out like in these very glamorous places.
I house sit. So I house sit a lot in outside of Guadalajara. There are a lot of Americans and Canadians here who retired here. And so it's like just
an artist community or something.
There's an artist community in San Miguel de Allende, which Sheeta also loves. But it's a little more pricey. It's a little more expensive. The retirees have kind of ruined the Mexico part of San Miguel. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. The retirees
they have.
Yeah, they've raised prices and stuff. Where right now I'm in Ajijic, where it's still inexpensive and still like reasonably priced, and you still get the benefits of like being in Mexico. Cheap food and good food. And
house sitting, like, do you find any sort of like resistance to like hiring a Black person to be in their space? Like, do you see that at all, or are they open and you've not had any issue?
I haven't had any issue with people either outside of the US or with people in the US who are under like 40 or so. So younger Americans, no problem. They don't seem to care. In the big cities, you know, I've house sat for months in San Francisco and Washington, D.C., and younger Americans, no problem. I have never, ever been able to book a house sit with a retired American in the U.S. But outside the U.S., no problem. They don't seem to care either. So I've never, like right now, I don't have a house sit booked. My house sit ends December 30th, the one I'm in right now. And I really just want to go to Florida or Southern California, and I can't get booked because the Floridian house sits and South Carolina, they're retired, but they're not responding to me at all.
Jacey, do you have any advice for women who are afraid to take the leap?
I don't know. I get asked this a lot. It's hard to say honestly, other than like just do it, which is so corny, but it's true, right? I think that I say that it's not as scary as it might seem. And if you are not comfortable with like going by yourself, like you can try to line up people you can travel with, like you're doing it for long term, but you got people to meet you along the way that can help get you out the door. And then once you're more comfortable, you can continue on by yourself.
That's great advice.
Yes.
Okay. Of all the countries you visited, let's go to all 83 countries. We're not going to just focus on your sabbatical because that's still a very impressive number. And this 83, you weren't doing a significant amount of work travel either, were you?
No. I've never gone to a new country for work travel. No.
Ooh, you've been out there.
Yeah,
just out there, hitting these streets.
Yeah, 84 in 2 days.
Country 84. Where are you going?
Ghana.
Oh, I'm gonna have to block you because everybody's gonna be in Ghana showing us their good old Ghana time. No, I can't. I'm looking forward to it. Ghana's always been on my list, but that visa. When I went on my sabbatical, I had a few things that helped me pick countries, and one was like, I don't need to do a significant visa application, or I can do it on the spot. Like
Yeah.
Vietnam was the most complicated visa. I wasn't doing anything more complicated than filling out a form, getting a photo, and like sliding it across the counter.
Yeah.
When I was anything that needed to be done. And so I'm very happy for all of you that are going to Ghana. That's live.
That's sincere.
That is.
I can tell. I can feel love.
No, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens, and then I think all of you will help the rest of us plan our trips to Ghana a little bit.
You know what? I think it's going to be
not to do.
Like right now might be the worst time to go. Like there's an influx of like 100,000 people going to be like.
You know, it's going to be a good old black ass, good old fashioned good time.
Yes.
You know it. You don't have to lie to us.
I saw a tweet from somebody who just landed in Ghana and was trying to get an Uber, and the Uber driver messaged them, you have to have cash because I need the cash to go put gas in my car to get you where you're going. So it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Yes. Yeah. But wherever you're going, I'm sure you'll be able to split an Uber because everybody's going to be going. There'll be a lot of people traveling.
Everybody's going to be there. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Oh, there was actually a question there. Of all the countries you've been to, do you have a fave?
No. I know that's always a hard question, right? I have favorite experiences, but not favorite countries. You know, like I really enjoyed Egypt because I'm history buff. I was in a history major. Like that's just really interesting to me. Just seeing something that old. I had a bomb time in Croatia just because it was a bunch of my girlfriends and I on a yacht. Like, can't get better than that, right? So, like, it's all about the experience as opposed to really the country. Yeah. I think there's some places that I've been that people love that I really don't like just because the experience I had there wasn't awesome, right? So, I have some top, but no like fave. The first time I went to the continent was huge, right? So like Kenya's high on my list just because like it was like, oh, look at all these Black people, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, gonna flip it around. Can you name a I'm not trying to go back there again, country?
There's no country. There's cities that I didn't love, right? So
tell me more.
I don't love Paris. I know a lot of people do. Doesn't do it for me.
I want to get eye to eye with you, and we are not there. I'm trying, girl.
And you know, I had an amazing time in Israel, but like I had a really crappy time getting out of that country. Like that Tel Aviv airport is.
People don't understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Tel Aviv airport is like, okay, so we hope you stretched because we're going to check all your cavities, everything. It was really.
Every single dirty draw, let me go through here, see what you hide. Like, I mean, it's really dehumanizing. It's not fun.
It's very dehumanizing. I'm a Black woman with an Arabic name. And so I got the like extra special, you've come here to destroy us treatment. And I'm like, I just want to leave. I didn't get asked a single question on my way in. Like, and I just leave. It's literally the worst thing as far as security that I've ever experienced.
I agree 100%. And it really, like, I had a great time in the country, but would I go back? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It ruined the experience for me. I was supposed to go to Jordan and then go to the West Bank. No, to Gaza. Yeah. My geography girl. To Gaza from Jordan. And then I was like, oh, but I have to go through Israeli security to do that? No. After Tel Aviv airport, I was like, not a chance.
It's funny, we went to Jordan after that as well, directly. That's where we were going. And so we found like a hammam and like, it was all like, we had to pamper ourselves and like to get that out of our, like, it was traumatic.
Yeah. It's, my friend actually got strip searched in that airport. Yeah.
So, and it's also really fun to like, just watch all the like fairer people, all the paler people just walk by without a clue.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, when they put that sticker on the back of your passport to tell you what line you go to, and it's like I did not see a single Black person who didn't get selected for extra security.
Yeah. And like, basically, I mean, they're very clear about the fact that they racial profile.
Yes.
And it's funny because there's no, I did a lot of research on this after because I was so mad. Like, they were like, there's no like word for it in Hebrew. Like they call it racial profiling in English.
No. Yeah. So Stephanie, if you don't know, before you can even check in at the counter, you have to talk to some random guy. There's an interview, and the guy takes your passport. Girl, I think maybe they're not allowed to ask you if you're Muslim, because that man asked me 30,000 questions to get to whether I was Muslim or not, except for asking that one, like, what languages did you grow up speaking? What holidays did you celebrate in your family? What foods did you eat? And I was like, Christmas? Like, what holidays? Like, the traditional American holidays, traditional Christian, like, what do you, like, just get to the point. But every question was like, are you going to say something that will allow me to, like, give you, because I got increased scrutiny, but like increased scrutiny. And there's like a long line of people behind me waiting to get questioned. I think it was like over 10 minutes of questioning just to get to the security line, just to get to check in, and then go to security, where they swiped every single item I had with the, is there explosives? Like she said, every panty, everything got swiped with the, is there explosives
every toiletry individual.
Everything. Yes.
They're like, it's
everything. I was like, I just want to leave your country. I just want to leave. And it really, I think they have their reasons, but I think it does a disservice to especially Black people who experience this, because no Black person I've ever talked to has said, I'm really looking forward to going back to Israel, or I had a really good time there, because of the experience. And it's typically because of the experience at the airport. I've had
at the airport
some men who've said, oh, I don't remember it being that bad. But every Black woman I've spoken to was like, okay, so no, let me tell you about how awful it was.
Well, that's intentional, right? They don't want you back. That's how I would interpret it.
I mean,
general opinion is that they have the safest airport in the world, and this is why. So they're not going to stop doing it.
Generally in airports, I feel like I get privilege. This is one of the places where I kind of flex a little bit, because nobody's checking for Black women in most airports. They're like, whatever. I've had scissors. I can't tell you how many times I've flown with scissors in my, in my backpack, in my carry-on, because I carry scissors for my hair, and, I feel like they're like, whatever, she ain't doing nothing. Especially coming in and out of Mexico, nobody cares what's in my bag. One time I had a bag of sand, and they did plop that on the counter, and then they're like, oh, it's just sand. But for the most part, airports are where I get to be like, hey, privilege.
No.
But not
Tel Aviv will have you. I walked into a bar at 8 a.m. and had a drink. That was like the only thing I could do after I got through security. And I think the guy knew, because I was like, I need alcohol. And he was just like, yeah, okay. Like, and I'm not I know people drink it. That's not me. But I was like, I need alcohol right now to get through the rest of the day. It was just it's a really toxic experience. Yeah. Anyway, we kind of rambled about that one. Well,
sorry.
No, like, clearly I had feelings too.
Good to know.
Yeah. If you have another way to get in and out, I wouldn't do Tel Aviv.
Exactly. I mean, I hear the land borders are not that bad if you want to do that.
But I also heard they can take a long time. And I feel like I don't trust they're not that bad unless that comes from someone who looks like me, because other people don't have that same experience.
Good point.
Yeah. So
you've watched this far, then you are interested in taking a sabbatical of your own. Sheeta and I have created some amazing resources. We want to get you from the this is a dream I have phase to this is a plan that I'm working. And so click the links in the descriptions. I've got a quiz for you on, could you actually take a sabbatical?
And I have a complete gap year planning checklist. You want to go on a sabbatical, a gap year, whatever you're calling it. This is where you start your planning process and figure out how to do it the right way. Right with a W, like Jacey. The links for both of those are in the description. Jacey, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Where can people who want to follow you on your journey connect with you?
Instagram, my handle is in the right place, right with a W, because that's my last name. And yeah, that's where I share all my my wanderings and musings.
Okay. And we will link to that in the description. So thank you all for joining us and for watching this far. Until the next video. Bye.